Hi, Laura.
Sorry, hi.
No, don't be. It's a lovely way to start. So Laura is an amazing established designer, and we've asked her to do something quite difficult. Is how do you gain inspiration? Now I know you guys got resource, you got Instagram, but as us slightly older designers, we used to go to the library, we used to do crazy stuff. So it'd be interesting to find out how Laura still works, and interesting her opinion. Sorry, a bit of a funny comment. So Laura, I hope you can share your screen. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mohsin. Hi, everybody. So I'm Laura, and I'm here to talk to you about inspiration. So just quickly, a little bit about me. I'm the owner of 3x1 Europe. I'm a freelance denim design and product development consultant. I've been in the industry for more than 20 years now, working with brands. So you can see here, for example, Pepe Jeans, Wrangler, Calvin, Marks and Spencer's. And as a consultant, I'm working with brands and retailers, but I'm also helping with startups, to mentor some startups. I also work with mills, garment manufacturers, all that kind of thing. So I'm here to talk to you today about inspiration, which, like Mohsin said, is kind of difficult because inspiration is a very, very vague thing. So I kind of started to think about this, and I was like, well, what really is the definition of inspiration? So according to the dictionary, inspiration is someone or something that gives you ideas for doing something. Again, a very vague description. And yeah, so I think the most important thing is that inspiration is really individual to everybody, and it can come from anywhere, and it can come at completely unexpected times as well. So you might be doing absolutely nothing and you suddenly have a great idea. Or you might be really trying to find inspiration and you might be really stuck for where to find it and what to do. So I started thinking about what do I do if I'm stuck for inspiration? What do other designers and product developers that I've worked with over the years? And I started to think about it, and there's some key areas that kind of keep coming back when you're looking for inspiration. So I started to think what is it that we're always looking to when we really need to try and find inspiration? So I'm going to talk to you about a few themes today that can help you to find inspiration. I'm going to keep it kind of vague intentionally because, yeah, it's an individual thing. And I don't want to kind of drive you in a particular direction when you're looking for inspiration, because it's going to be really individual for each one of you. But yeah, so here's what I was thinking. So history. Obviously, in the denim industry, in the denim community, there's a huge amount of history. It's something that's always going to be inspirational for us. No matter if you're stuck with things, it's always good to go back and look at history. There's always so much more history being uncovered every day as well. You can find amazing images, you can find old styles. I've gathered here together some specific denim ones, but you might also find other historical images, other historical costumes, inspirational. Doesn't necessarily have to be denim that's influencing denim. You might be inspired by kind of period costumes, that kind of thing. There's a few books here which are really, really good about specific denim industry. Obviously, there's a lot more, but if you're looking for some good books to read, I can recommend these 4 here. Yeah, and really looking at things from the old styles through to the old advertising, lots and lots of different parts of history to look into for inspiration. Oh, my down arrow stopped working. Then linked to history is, of course, archives and vintage. And you'll find that there's loads and loads of different places that you can look at. I mean, when we think about vintage, we often think about secondhand shops. And that, of course, is a really, really big and easily accessible source of inspiration. And as we start to kind of rethink about how we design as well, I think that these secondhand stores, archives, vintage stores can provide a different kind of inspiration almost, because in the past we used to go vintage shopping and buy garments and kind of copy details from them, maybe use a wash, find an old wash and use that as inspiration for a new wash. But maybe today we're thinking about designing in a slightly different way. And we're maybe thinking, how can we take this old garment and redesign it into something new? Now, if you're looking for specific archives or specific places to look, I've mentioned a few here, which are like really, really quite well-known ones. Obviously, we all know that Mohsin has a pretty big archive that he shares with people quite often. You can, I think he's quite happy to invite you down to his archive to have a good rummage around there. There's also a guy, Rudy, Swiss Jeans Freak, on Instagram. You can follow him. He shares a lot of pieces that he has from his museum. He had a booth recently at Blue Zone, one of the denim trade shows, and he showed a lot of his old pieces there. So yeah, I think he's also a person that you could reach out to have a look at some old stuff. He's also like super, super knowledgeable. So if you ever find an old piece, he's very good at identifying like what it could be, what period it's from, etc. Any factories or laundries that you work with, they also will have amazing archives of their own. This picture here is from Aletti, which is a denim factory and laundry in Italy. They have the most amazing denim museum. They have loads and loads of really, 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 really old denim pieces. But this picture is from their stadium of denim. And this is basically an archive. I'm going to see if I can share a video with you right now. It's basically their archive of all the old washes. Let me see if this is going to work. This is their stadium of denim. It is basically all the washes that they've done over the last however many years. It is enormous, literally enormous. You can kind of get an idea of the scale of it here. It's like, it's a massive, massive warehouse, and this is like a big, yeah, archive. So if you're working with them, they are a great source of inspiration as well. You can go and rummage around there as a designer. You can go and have a look and pull things out. So yeah, that's a really good place to look. Cool, perfect. And then in terms of like vintage stores and vintage markets, you can see at the bottom here, you guys have Vintage Showroom in London. You can always make an appointment to go and see them and go and have a look at what they've got in stock. Durango Vintage was a big archive that was recently, last week, I think it was, auctioned off. They made a really good catalog with some great pictures in. This is a picture that's taken from that catalog. So you can find a lot of stuff in catalogs as well if you can't see the actual real deal. And then, of course, you have markets like the Rose Bowl, which is a pretty famous one as well. So those places are all great places to go digging around. Sometimes they're a bit smelly. You might want to wear gloves, but you can always find some gems in there that can spark some inspiration. Catwalks, obviously also still a big source of inspiration. There was a period, I think, where maybe the catwalks were more inspired by what was going on in real life, but I think it's kind of come full circle again. These pictures are all from the latest fashion weeks. There was some great denim coming down the catwalks this season. And yeah, I mean, like I said before, with the history, it might not necessarily be the denim pieces that inspire you. It might be other garments that inspire you, and you translate that somehow into the denim in your collection. So yeah, take inspiration from the catwalks, but it's always very important to remember to be influenced, but don't steal. We don't steal from big designers. We don't steal from small designers. We get influenced by them, but we don't copy them. Important point. Street style, obviously still very inspirational as well. I just wrote here, like, I love walking around, grabbing a cup of coffee, sitting in a park or at the quayside and just people watching. So I'm based in Antwerp in Belgium, and there is an amazing quayside all along the river where people just go and hang out, and people of all ages, from like teenagers meeting up with their friends to, you know, the 90-year-old couple going on their little evening stroll around the block. And it's a great place to just sit and watch people. And it's always really inspiring seeing how people put outfits together. And I think that's one thing that's maybe changed quite a lot in fashion over the last 10 years, maybe, is that a lot of fashion has lost its generational appeal. Like, you'll see older people wearing some of the same garments as younger people, but they're just styling it up in a different way. Like, I think the period has gone where you wouldn't necessarily wear exactly what your mom or your dad is wearing. You know, now you see teenagers who are nicking their dad's jeans and styling them up in a really cool way. So I think it's really great to just people watch. You can get so much inspiration from just watching people, seeing how they're wearing clothes, what they're doing in those clothes, how they're styling them. That's just, yeah, for me, that's, I think, probably the biggest source of inspiration. Trend analysis websites is obviously a really good one as well. You've all just heard from Nicole from WGSN. That's obviously a super, super relevant trend analysis website for the denim and fashion industry. Trendstop is kind of similar to WGSN. It's also very fashion related. And you can get some great ideas. You can see what's going on in the market without necessarily having to get out there yourself, which can be really, really handy sometimes. The third one that I've mentioned here, LSN Global, which is part of the Future Laboratory. This for me is a really interesting one because they're not a fashion trend analysis website at all. They focus more on consumer behaviors, and they really talk about like the bigger picture. So they really talk about like consumer mindset, how people are thinking and how people's lives are totally changing. So they talk about like how people live within cities or within the spaces that they're in. And they make some beautiful stories around these trends and some beautiful analysis around it. And this one is really the bigger picture. So you can kind of take little pieces out of that can spark a point of inspiration to get you going with your collection. Now, obviously, all of these platforms are kind of paid platforms, and some of them are quite expensive. But if you follow them on Instagram, if you sign up for their newsletters, they share little bits and bobs on their Instagrams and through their newsletters. And there's a few things on their websites as well that you can access freely. Quite often it's the blogs that you can access quite freely. And those places can give you a great starting point. They can already give you a huge amount of inspiration. So don't feel like you have to sign up to these paid platforms. You can already get a lot without necessarily having to be a fully paid up member of these things. Travel. Obviously, travel is always very, very inspirational on so many different levels. I mean, I've put some pictures here that kind of have bright, vibrant colors, interesting architecture. So travel can, yeah, it can provide inspiration on so many different levels. It can provide color inspiration. It can provide shape inspiration. Maybe it's the shape of a pocket that is inspired by a building. Maybe it's a color of a fabric or a wash that's inspired by the sunset in the water, for example. Or simply just the fact that you're traveling out of your normal routine, having that chance to clear your mind. Having a clear mind can sometimes just give you space to come up with new ideas, to have some different inspiration. Cultures are obviously very, very linked to travel. If we're looking again specifically at denim, there's a lot of cultures that have a really, really deep background, a deep history of denim and how they use it and what they do with it. So some examples I've put here are the Japanese sashiko stitching. This is obviously something, it's not specifically denim, but in Japanese culture, there's a lot of indigo and old indigo kimonos that use this sashiko stitching. So it's a really easy one in a way to translate into denim. It's a trend that kind of keeps coming back and it keeps providing inspiration on different kind of levels. So that's a super interesting one. Indian kantha quilting is kind of similar to the sashiko stitching. This is where they layer up old fabrics and quilt them together. So some of these are really beautiful as well and can provide loads of inspiration. Africa obviously has a big indigo history, some handloom fabrics here from Mali. Sometimes, like if you're traveling and you get a chance to go and see some of these people that work on traditional old handlooms working, that is really amazing to see, like the way they work, how dexterous they are, how quickly they move, how these fabrics just kind of emerge in front of you is really, really beautiful to see. And that's really inspiring. Also, like not necessarily fabric or wash wise, but also shape wise, style wise. There's a lot of traditional indigo workwear clothing out there. This is an example of a French fisherman's jacket. We have similar in Cornwall as well. So yeah, you can look at different cultures, but again, do your research on the cultures and make sure that you're respectful of them. In the past few years, there's been a lot of concern around people using different cultural images or icons within designs, especially within fashion. So just be careful of that, be aware of it, be respectful. other cultures. And if you're not really sure, there's if you go on the International Council of Design, they have a great article or a great like manifesto about best practices in this area. And you can find the International Indigenous Design Charter there as well, which really kind of talks you through some do's and don'ts, how to handle these things. So yeah, just make sure that you're really conscious of how you handle any cultural things that you're doing in your collections. Movies, music, and art. I think that's something that's always going to be inspiring to fashion designers, denim designers. I've just put some pictures of 2 movies, 2 music groups, and 2 artists that have been inspirational in projects that I've worked on in the past, either very, very literally or a bit more abstractly. So in terms of the movies, like these 2 movies, Talented Mr. Ripley and Into the Wild, have very, very directly influenced projects that I've worked on in the past. Music, obviously, again, the grunge period has been very influential. The way bands are wearing clothing, the way they have their merchandising, all that stuff can be really inspirational. And artists as well, of course. Here we've got, what's his name? My mind's gone blank. Anyway, these 2 artists have very, very directly influenced projects that I've worked on as well. Then sharing knowledge. This, I think, is something that's really, really important, actually. And this can be a huge source of inspiration. Already today, you've heard a lot of information and inspiration from industry mentors. Like, ask us questions, share your knowledge with us. You guys also have knowledge. We learn from you, you learn from us. Talk to your peers, talk to people in other industries even. You know, sometimes I have a good friend that works in pharmaceuticals, totally different industry to the denim and fashion industry. But we're often talking about like consumer behaviors around our products. And there's stuff that, like, sharing that knowledge can spark inspiration. So of course, like talking to other people, talking to consumers as well, that can also provide some insight that you maybe don't think about when you're designing. Maybe the way they want to wear a garment is something that you've not necessarily considered, and they can have some interesting feedback to give. And then of course, things like social media. Obviously now it's really easy to follow amazing accounts on Instagram or TikTok or wherever it is you get your social media these days. Like, there's so much great imagery shared, there's so much great information shared, there's so much knowledge that is shared now. And I think the denim industry is really, really good at sharing knowledge. The greater fashion industry is maybe not so good yet, but the denim industry is really, really good. Like most of us that you've heard from talking today, we all have a WhatsApp group together, and we're constantly asking each other questions, sharing our ideas with each other. So I think, yeah, just simply sharing knowledge creates innovation, creates inspiration. So keep talking to people, whether they're in the denim industry, outside the denim industry, old, young, share your knowledge, talk to each other. Going with that sharing knowledge, if you're working with a fabric mill, really talk to the fabric mill, ask them loads of questions. Go and see the process. Like when I started in this industry, which is a long, long time ago, it always used to be the fabric sales guy would just come into your office or your showroom, and he would just present you like hanger after hanger after hanger of fabric. And you'd be like, yeah, no, that's okay. You would never ask any questions about that fabric. You never really had any discussions with the sales guy. It was just like, oh yeah, I like it or I don't like it. Maybe about 10 years ago, that started to change, and designers and product developers, we really started to want to be more aware of fabrics. What are the processes behind it? How is it made? What is it good at? What is it bad at? So yeah, really ask a lot of questions. The guys in the fabric mills, they know a lot. I mean, we heard from Nicole from Candiani earlier, how much amazing knowledge did she share with you guys? She didn't just show you fabrics. She really talked to you about what they're doing, what they're working on, how they're innovating. And these guys are kind of ahead of us in the game. So they're working on stuff that maybe as a designer, you're not going to see for another 2 years' time. So they're really ahead in the innovation process. So that can be super, super inspiring, as well as like the old ways of creating textiles. There's old ways of creating textiles, there's new ways of creating textiles, and they can each give different levels of inspiration on so many different ways. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily just need to be denim either. Also look at other fabrics. Other fabrics can be really inspirational. How can we mix one type of yarn with another type of yarn? Maybe there's, yeah, Miguel talked earlier about all the different kinds of new ways of doing things. Maybe some of those yarns, those fabrics are being developed in other non-denim fabrics right now. Maybe that can be taken and translated into denim. So yeah, really talk to the fabric mills. Talk to the sales guys. They know a lot more than they ever used to know. And most of the R&D guys are also really, really available in these mills. So ask them questions. Ask them like, could this work? Could we do that? And have the conversation with them, because having those conversations sparks new ideas. Same with the laundries. I didn't hear Rowan, but I'm pretty sure he's shared some pretty amazing things with you. But I did hear Leanne before I got stuck in a traffic jam for an hour. And how amazing was Leanne's presentation? Like the laundries, most people that work in laundries are real geeks, but the knowledge that they have is amazing. They play with chemicals, they play with lasers to create the most amazing artworks actually at the end. So take advantage of that. Go and see Leanne at Blackhorse Lane. Challenge her. She asked you to challenge her. Go and have a play with the machines, a play with the lasers, see what you can do. And the really nice thing about denim is that it's really organic, not organic in a literal way, but it's a natural fabric. It's a natural, it fades in a natural way. So as a product developer, I would say probably about 80 to 90% of the time, I would go into a laundry with an expectation of this is what I want to do. And about 80 or 90% of the time, what comes out at the end is not what I planned at the beginning. All fabrics react differently to the lasers, to the washing machines, to the chemicals. Everything reacts differently. You might have exactly the same recipe in one laundry, put it in another laundry, and it comes out completely different. That's the beauty of denim. So be open to it and just see what happens. Have a play. Playing sparks the imagination, of course. So yeah, that's just really a few small areas that you could gain inspiration from. I really like this quote from Mark Twain: an open mind leaves a chance for someone to drop a worthwhile thought in it. So just keep your mind open, keep your eyes open, keep looking, keep inquiring, keep asking, keep talking, and you can find inspiration anywhere. So yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, feel free. My details are there on the screen. You can find me on Instagram or send me an email. And yeah, stay inspired.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. If you kindly unshare your screen, that'd be great. Do you know what? I'm always about sharing. I think this group here knows that. And I think even if I share the same mood board, you're going to design something different. I'm not that precious about stuff anymore. I never have been. That's why I even share patterns. I'll like go for it. So yeah, I think sharing is important. If you share, you release it, and
exactly
more space for other stuff. That's what I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. But thank you so much. There is a question that's come through. Hi Laura, what's your consumer feedback to eco denim? Is there much interest in to grab the sustainable fashion? Okay, you understand that question? I'm trying to understand it.
That's quite a tough one, actually. Yes and no. I mean, there's been an awful lot of these surveys around sustainability and asking customers, will they spend more money for sustainable products? And like 99% of the time, they all say yes. But there's a huge action gap between what consumers say they will do and what they actually do. And I think everyone loves to say, oh yeah, I really look out for sustainable things, but still, I think amongst us, we're very aware of it, but amongst the greater population, I still don't think people think that much about what they purchase. They go into a shop, they see something they like, it fits them well, they buy it.
thing is, it's also, you know, there is a need for cheap clothing. There is a need for it. We're not, you know, I'm all for it. I think if we can influence the Tesco's and the Primarks of the world, we're doing a much more stronger job, to be honest, because they make so much product. So if they can shift to a recycled content or something that's a bit more sustainable, we're doing something better. So,
yeah, I mean, right now it's kind of a luxury to be able to afford a better, more sustainable product. But like you say, if we can influence the big retailers to step by step make it everything a little bit better, make it more democratic. In the end, jeans are like the most democratic product in the world, right? So everybody wears jeans. If we can get every retailer to incrementally make everything a little bit better, then we'll be doing a great job. And it all starts from the design.
It certainly does. And I want to thank you so much for your time. You were quite awesome. And in between all your other jobs and all the rest of it, you managed to fit us in. So we're really appreciative of your time. And thank you again. And this is, I think, your second time you've done Ed. So many congratulations, even the third time. So thank you so much for always being a part of the Transformers Foundation.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.